Holy f, this looks great. Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to talk about Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation is an MMO title in development by Intrepid Studios. The studio was founded by Steven Sheriff, an avid MMO player who was displeased with the current state of the genre and set out to make a difference. The features promised to be in the game do entice me and makes me hopeful for the project, but there are some things that worry me about the longevity of this game. Now, this isn't a hate video, in fact, far from it. It's just some concerns that I might have about the game. I wish nothing but success to the game and the studio. God knows, we all need a new title to revive the interest in the genre. A lot of you might already know what this game is about, but for all you newcomers and interest in the game, I will summarize what this game is about and what makes it unique. Ashes of Creation started its development as early as 2016, and it's a mix of theme park and sandbox MMO, being labeled as Sandpark. The world it's set on is huge, on an ever-changing map with a total of 1200 square kilometers. It contains a plethora of PvE and PvP elements to satisfy and entertain all types of players. But what makes it unique is its node system. Spread throughout the world, there will be over 100 nodes. These are basically areas that, with the player's influence, be it through gathering, killing monsters, or quests, will evolve the respective area's node, starting from a lowly camp all the way to a busy metropolis. During its growth, events and content will be unlocked, all themed around the area that the node is located, and will be expressed in the form of quests, dungeons, and world bosses. But when one node levels up, all adjacent ones are locked, and to progress they must successfully siege the evolved node in order to do so, making the world dynamic and each server development truly unique. There are many more things concerning nodes, like node types, mayoral elections, housing, and much more, but for the sake of the point of this video, let's leave it at that. The game will be jam-packed with PvP content for all you PvP fans. You will have the sorts of open world flagging, dueling, caravan PvP, battlegrounds, castle sieges, node sieges, arenas, and guild wars. A great deal of these forms of PvP are already known for the great majority of you. On this video, we'll be focusing on caravan PvP, castle sieges, and guild wars. Caravan PvP is a simple yet cool feature in the game. Nodes have different resources available to them. What is abundant in one node could be scarce to another. This will incentivize trading between both of them. To send resources to a node, you will do so by sending a caravan containing these goods. The caravan will be vulnerable to attacks, and players can either choose to protect the caravan along the way, or attack it in hopes of stealing some of its resources. Guild Wars is a feature still in development, but what we know so far is that at any time guilds can declare war on each other. When in a state of war and during prime time, objectives will spawn in throughout the world for the guilds to compete over it. Also, players of opposing sides will be able to attack each other without triggering the corruption system, something we will analyze later. Castle sieges are guild versus guild events in a 250 versus 250 format over the control of one of the 5 castles in the world. Intrepid is adamant at preventing griefing, and to do so, in order to combat in-game toxicity, there is a system being implemented called corruption system. The system works like this. When you attack non-combatant or combatant players, you face more consequences. For instance, you can get weaker and drop more items depending on your corruption level. Also, to prevent killing players with a much lower level, if you kill them, you will immediately get a high level of corruption. Here is a diagram showing you how you flag yourself into PvP and what gets you to become corrupted. You, as a non-combatant, by attacking another non-combatant, turn into a combatant. If the other non-combatant doesn't fight back and you end up killing him, you become corrupted. Attacking a corrupt player will never alter your current PvP stage. In terms of PvE, you will have the usual suspects: dungeons, quests, raids, and world bosses. Regarding dungeons at least, you will have an 80 to 20% split between both open world and instance type of content. The instance content will be solely for solo or questing purposes. Another thing to also keep in mind is that the availability of the dungeons, raids, quests, or world bosses will all depend on the stage and area of the node that they are set on. The game looks very promising, truly a world to explore, where we will carve out our own story through an immersive experience. But it does present some issues that, in my opinion, will hinder its success. I never thought I would say this, but the game has too much freedom, which will make it so that the game's success will heavily depend on its community. Games where you can loot players' corpses or lock players from content generally attract not the most civil of crowds. And yes, that's where the corruption system comes in, but even then, it can be exploited. If you go to PK with a group of your 10 friends, leave the PKing to, let's say, 2 or 3 of those. The rest of the party can then kill them to revert them back to non-combatant, rinsing and repeating the process as long as they please, making it so that they don't actually have a risk of losing their own loot. This could be fixed, at least in my opinion, at least regarding this part, where instead of any player on death having a chance of losing a part of their loot, only the corrupted ones did. Also, when the non-corrupted died, they would, depending on the level difference between both, would drop a token, and with a certain amount of tokens, you could then exchange it for gear, goods, or even coin, still giving an incentive for world PvP to happen. The next issue is with the PvE content and how the great majority of it will be open world. Again, the idea of dungeons being open and the deeper you go, the more challenging it will be, makes for a very interesting concept. Again, depending on how the community behaves. You will probably trust the party behind you. Hey, sometimes they even helped you. But oh look, there's the boss. Now they will just wait for you to attack it, then kill you. You will lose your loot and your progress. But not only that, in the late game area dungeons and raids, since it will be open world as well, this will look like New World's elite zones. A big zerg, no frames, no challenge, just a grindy, unimportant activity. It's not even if you are or not ganked. It's about not having a good, challenging PvE experience. Never was it possible in an open world environment. That's why instanced endgame is a must in my opinion, as it's scaled for those numbers of players with various mechanics and challenges in which, if any of the raid or party members fails a little bit or the whole lot of the mechanic, it will cause a wipe, making it so that when you finally overcome that obstacle, it's even more gratifying. Last but not least, games like this, where big gaming communities can just waltz right in and control the access to content, can be a very bad experience with those who don't side with them. It was one of the great causes that made a lot of people quit New World. I can guarantee you a lot of these people will come from EVE Online with their big companies comprised of hundreds of players, all focused on a single goal. And this will translate into them locking you out of endgame dungeons, endgame raids, so they can keep themselves up ahead. They will dominate and crush the PvP scene with little to no competition to face them. But then again, I do really hope this game does well, and I am truly excited to try it out. I wish nothing but the best and success for this game. At the end of the day, this is just a game that isn't even released yet. So, does it even matter? Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye now.